You are a busy work from home woman that is tired of feeling like they're falling behind on work or like they just don't have enough time to get it all done, you're going to want to make sure to listen to this episode. You might have a super organized workflow and know exactly which tasks need to be done, but if you still, for some reason, just feel like you are always working or at least thinking about work and all the tasks you didn't get to, that is what we're going to try and solve today. One of the great benefits about routines is that they can help us get off of that train of never ending tasks. So, routines can help us get organized in a way that encourages us to focus during those work blocks of our day so that we can really get our work done and open up free time to be able to put away our work and responsibilities when it's time and then open up that free time to have fun living our lives. And that is what we ultimately want. So if you feel like you are always falling behind on your work and just can't stop thinking about those never ending work tasks, you're going to be able to benefit from something we call a time budget, or that's what we're naming it anyway. So grab a pen and paper and let's get you some free time back in your life. Are you ready to stop the chaos, the stress, the overwhelm that's filling your life? I'm Renee Matt, and together you and I are going to build simple routines that are going to change your life. When you put these habits into practice, you're going to be able to organize your life in a way where you can be there for your family, pay off your debt, save money, your house can stay organized, you don't have to stress about what's for dinner, and you still get time for yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Routine Advantage Podcast. So I mentioned that this episode was for work from home women, and I just want to make sure that you know that and anybody can use the tips in this episode. Really, I wanted to focus on entrepreneurs because it seems like we have a lot of women that are working from home in our community. And one of the things that keeps popping up is that you just can't figure out how to keep up with all of the tasks. And this is very relevant for me because I was struggling with the same thing for my work. And if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that I have this side business as well as my full time job. So I'm doing both and I'm juggling both. And I also like having the evenings off with my husband. So I have to be very strategic in how I plan out the hours in my day to make sure that it all fits where it needs to so that I have time to have my business and get things going there, make sure I can record podcasts, make sure I can follow up in the community, make sure I can respond to things and be in that workflow, make sure I can show up for my full time job and have the evenings to spend time with my husband, and we go to the gym, we have dinner, all those things along with a dog walk in the morning and having some time to myself for a morning routine. All of those things, like I have to be very cautious about where I place my time. And we go over that in the podcast. If you need to go back and listen to some episodes to help you out, we do like the planning out our day stack in episode 67 is super helpful if you are new to this whole time blocking system. I love doing my version is called a day stack is what I like to do, or what I like to call it. But that is what works really well for me to plan out my day and get it organized in my thoughts. But when we are doing that, we also need to know, like, as we're stacking our day, what is actually happening in each of those stacks. So if I have a work block or my business time in my day stack, I need to know what I am doing when I sit down to work on my business. And the reason that I wanted to bring this episode to you is because I was struggling with this. Like, I felt like I was really on a roll. We have an amazing workflow that works really well for us. But what I was struggling with is that I'm trying to work on a bigger project, and I won't say anything more about that right now. But I'm working on a bigger project, and I just am struggling to keep up with my goal on getting it completed in the time frame that I wanted to. And I finally was like, I just need to sit down and figure this out, figure out what the issue is because I'm running out of time and I just don't have enough time and I need to figure out what is actually doable and if I need to reset my expectations. So I sat down and I was thinking, like, why don't I do a time budget? Because I love budgeting and we've talked about that before. And that's one of the routines that we talk about on this podcast. But if we can take our money and we can assign our money to different areas and different bills and different goals and plug in the amounts and balance it out to a zero-based budget, why can't we do the same thing with our time? So, what I ended up doing was basically going through all of my tasks that I have that are recurring tasks and where I want to be spending my time in my business. And I figured out, like, I laid it out kind of like a budget. And that's what I want to walk through with you today because what I found for my own time budget was quite astonishing. It was very eye-opening, and I'll tell you a little bit about it, but we're going to go through and I just want to make sure you know that even if you're not working from home, you can do this. It can apply to entrepreneurs, it can apply to somebody that is working on hobbies or projects, or maybe you do have a full-time job and this applies to you and you can actually make this work for you. Go ahead and do it. If you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe it's things you're tackling around the house, all those things, just see if this applies to you and make it work for you. We always talk about testing and tweaking, and this episode is going to be no different. You want to use it and test it and tweak it so that it fits for you. So the big thing about this one is that you're probably going to want to have a good amount of writing space, whether it is a few sheets of paper, whether it's a whiteboard, whatever it works for you, you're going to want something to be able to write down because we're going to be going through a few exercises. And if you're listening while you're, you know, doing stuff around the house or you're washing dishes or you're on a walk, you're probably going to want to make sure you save this episode and come back to it so that you can actually sit down and do this exercise. So the first thing you're going to do is you are going to brainstorm your tasks. Now, because we are talking about work from home women, because that is what I'm seeing right now that they need help with, and what I'm being asked for, this is something that I'm going to apply for work tasks. So let's say you have a work from home job similar to mine, where you might have a lot of tasks that you do on a recurring basis. So it could be things like, responding to comments on social media. It might be doing emails. It might be updating spreadsheets. It might be updating expense reports. It might be working on projects or content, all these different types of tasks. Whatever tasks you're working on, just make it apply for you. So, what you're going to do is you're just going to brainstorm a list of tasks that you know you do on a recurring basis. It does not matter when they're done or how often they're done. Don't worry about that right now. All you're doing is you're just trying to get a full master list of tasks that you do in your business. And either at the same time, or you can go back and do this, you're also going to want to plug in next to it the minutes that it will take to complete each task. So, this does take you some time to get through this exercise, but I will tell you right now, it is well worth it. So, what you're doing is you're just brainstorming a list, and then beside each of those tasks, write how many minutes it will take next to it. So, for instance, if you are responding to comments on social media and you expect that that will take you probably 15 minutes to get through your social media accounts and respond to everything, you would just put respond to social media comments 15 minutes. And you just go down your list. So, like I said, you can either brainstorm your whole list and then go back through and assign an amount of time to each one, or you can do it as you go, whatever works best for you. But once you're done with that, you'll go to step 2. And this is where we're going to just set that list aside and we're going to create a chart. And I did mine in Google Sheets because I love spreadsheets and it was really easy for me to do it in there. However, you do not need to use a spreadsheet of any kind. You literally can take a piece of paper or a whiteboard, whatever works for you. But we're going to create 2 different charts. And the first chart is going to be a weekly sheet. And this weekly sheet is at the top. We're going to just do the days of the week. So decide what your work days are. So if you don't work on weekends, all you need to do is Monday through Friday. If you work Monday through Saturday, put Monday through Saturday. If you work on your business every day of the week, then put the whole week at the top. But you have to decide what working days work for you. And then put those days at the top. And then underneath each of the days, you're going to have two columns under each day. So if your, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday goes across from left to right at the top of the sheet, then underneath Monday, you're going to have a task column and a minutes column. And then under Tuesday, you're going to have a task column and a minutes column, and so on throughout the rest of the week. Okay. So then it's a blank sheet. You are just creating the chart right now. On your second chart, this is going to be an annual sheet, and you're going to do something very similar, but it is a little bit different. So in the annual sheet, you're going to create instead of your weekdays, you're going to do months. So you're going to do January, February, March, all the way through to December. And then underneath, you're going to actually have three columns. So the first column is going to be the date of the month. So let's say you do something on the 15th of January, then you would just have a column that allows you to put 15. And then on the second column is going to be the task column. So it might be a little wider. And then the third column is going to be that minutes column. Okay, so once you do that, you have your two charts, your weekly sheet and your annual sheet. And then you have the third item that you have is your brainstormed list of tasks. So that's where we're at so far. Okay. So if you need to pause this episode, we're kind of running through these pretty quickly. So if you need to pause and catch up on this, absolutely do that. And then just start it when you're ready. And then once you have those three items done, we're going to move to step 3. And this is where you're going to take your brainstormed list and you are going to start plugging in your tasks where it is appropriate. So you have now brainstormed all your tasks and you've created a weekly sheet and an annual sheet, right? So let's say it is your checking your social media accounts. Now, if you do that every day you work, then it would go in the weekly sheet because that is a weekly task that's recurring every week. So you would check social media or respond to social media comments, however you want to do it, and you would put it in your task list under Monday and say under the minutes column, you'd put 15 minutes. And then you do that same thing under Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And you will have it copied 5 times across your week. Now, if you only check or respond to social media comments, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, then you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't apply it to Tuesdays and Thursdays. Do you see where I'm going with this? You only apply it to the days that you're going to do it in a week. And you just do this as you go through your list, do this for all of the items on your task list. Now, if it is not something you do weekly, then we're going to do something a little bit different. That's where that annual sheet comes in. So if you do it once a month, and you do it on the first of the month, so maybe you update your expense reports, and then you're going to update your expense reports, and let's say that takes you 30 minutes. You would go to your annual sheet and you would go on your annual sheet under January. You would remember we have a date column in the months. So on under January, you would go on the first in the date column. And then in the task column, you would do update expense reports. And then in the minutes, you're going to put 30. And that allows you to mark 30 minutes in January on the first of the month to update your expense reports. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to just copy that and you're going to apply that to the rest of the months through the whole year, because that is something you do every month on the first of the month. So this is how you're going to continue through that whole brainstormed list. You're just going to go through and check each one off, and as you apply it to the appropriate spot, whether it is in the weekly or it's in the annual. But let's say something is just a once a year thing, or maybe it's a quarterly thing. So let's say every December, you create a big holiday email newsletter that goes out to your customers. And let's say you're doing that and that goes out in December. So in November, you probably want to start preparing that or make sure you have everything around so you don't feel, frazzled trying to get that out in December if you're busy with other things. So let's say every November 15th, you want to be reminded that you need to prepare the holiday newsletter. And that takes you, 45 minutes. So what you want to do is you would only apply that to the November spot. You wouldn't need to do that on every month or copy and paste because that's just a once a year thing. So you would go to November, you would write on the 15th, you would do create the newsletter, the holiday newsletter, and then add 45 minutes. And you just keep going through your task list through the whole thing. So it might be a really long list, it might be a short list, whatever it is for you. Go through the whole list and apply it to either the weekly sheet where it's appropriate or the monthly sheet where it's appropriate until you are through your entire brainstormed list and everything is checked off and has its place in one of those two charts. Once you do this, we're going to move to step 4. And this is where we are going to add up our minutes for each day of the week. So we're going to start with the weekly sheet. So what you're going to do is now that you have everything plugged in, you're going to go and start at, Monday if that is the first day you have. Maybe you have it on Sunday as a start date. But whatever is first, you're going to just go to that list. You're going to add up all of those minutes. And then you are going to take the total number of minutes and divide it by 60. And this is going to tell you how many hours you need to work every Monday. Okay. Then we're going to go and do this across the whole week, and you're just going to go through and add everything up. And then all together, if you want to spend your whole weekly total, you're going to add all of the days. So the totals from Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday, I'm skipping Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you're a 5-day week worker, you're going to add up all 5 of those days. And it's easier, I think, to do minutes sometimes. So you add up all of the minutes, divide it by 60. That will tell you how many hours you need to work on your weekly base tasks. That's not adding additional things that come up later. That is just your weekly tasks. And so then once you do that, then you need to go to the step 5, which is now doing the same thing for your months. So now you go to January, you add up all of those minutes, and you can do the same thing. You can divide the total number of minutes by 60 because 60 minutes are in an hour. So you divide it by 60, and then it tells you how many additional hours for that month you will need to add in order to accomplish all of your weekly tasks as well as all of those tasks that are due that month. Does this make sense? Similar to budgeting, you're just kind of figuring things out and figuring out how many hours you have instead of cash. So what you're doing is you're trying to figure out if you are spending the appropriate amount of time on your tasks and if you are actually planning the days and planning the hours that you need to get these things done. So once you do this, you move to step 6, and this is reviewing and adjusting your base week as needed. And this is where your prioritization comes in big time. So if you are looking at your week and you find that you're, needing to spend 40 hours on your business and you really only have 20 hours available, you need to make some really big changes and you need to really go through each of those tasks and decide what is most important, what needs to get done, and what can be cut. Now, you can do this 2 different ways. You can either prioritize and cut things out or reduce the time spent on some of these tasks. You can eliminate the tasks completely. So you can adjust it that way. Or on the flip side, if you think that everything is super important and can't change, then you need to look at your weekly plan and see if you can add additional work hours. Now, for me, I'm always going to try to eliminate tasks and simplify my process rather than adding additional work hours because the goal is ultimately to work the least amount possible while accomplishing the most that I can and to be very productive. So, you have to decide what works best for you that way, but this is a really good way to see, what might not be working. And this is exactly what was happening to me is because I was feeling so overwhelmed with all of the stuff that I had. And once I did this time budget for myself, because I literally did this whole thing for myself. And when I went through it, I was taking tasks and I was planning on doing almost double what I had scheduled for work hours. And that is exactly what happened to me. So I had to figure out how to either try and increase a couple of hours and also scale back my tasks to make it more simple. And some of the ways you can do that is, say if you do something, every day of the week, maybe it is checking those social media accounts and responding to messages. Does it have to be every day? Maybe you can do that Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Or if you are, you know, um, in the habit of updating your expense reports every morning and making sure everything's online, maybe it only needs to be done Tuesdays and Thursdays. Does it actually have to be done? So, obviously, you don't want to get behind on expense reports and financials and things like that, but you have to ask yourself, what is it that absolutely needs to be done? And where can I scale back? Because that's what's going to help you free up time while still getting your work accomplished in the time frame that you have allotted. So now that you have these sheets ready to go, you can use them as a template. And you'll go into step 7 at this point. So step 7 is each week when you sit down to plan out your following week, you are going to review your week and review this weekly sheet. And then you're going to look at your monthly tasks and you're going to add them to the appropriate day if needed. So if you are on the week that has, the 15th of the month and you had that task on the 15th of the month, you know that you need to plug that in on that Thursday of that month, let's say it falls on. And so if you need to plug that in, then obviously you need to adjust your work hours that day, or you need to let go of something else and you need to adjust. So that's what you're doing at this step 7 point is you're reviewing and you are, adding them to the appropriate days and recalculating those hours if you need to. And then once you do that, then on step 8, once you review your weekly sheet, you see where it is, you have the hours planned, then that is when you go into your Google Calendar or your paper planner or your, scheduler, whatever it is, to plan out your week and plan when you're actually going to work those hours so that you can plug it in and you know exactly when you're going to get these things done so that you don't have to spend the rest of your time worrying about when you're going to get these things accomplished. So we want to avoid having to think about work all the time. If you can figure out exactly when it's going to be done, you can just do it when it's assigned and put it away. And that is the best thing about getting work organized is getting a routine that allows you to really have that focus, really intentional focus. That's what I'm trying to say. Really intentional focus so that you can get those things done and then free up the rest of your time because we don't want to be living our life to work. We want to work in order to allow us to live our lives. When I figured out that I was uh, time budgeting less than half of what I was expecting to get done, I realized like no wonder I was feeling behind on my tasks and not having enough time to work on my big project that I wanted to work on because the hours just simply weren't there. I was trying to do too much in not enough time. So that at that point, it allowed me to really think about what was on my plate and to see what needed to be adjusted and where I could make some changes to accommodate what my goals actually were and the time that I have set aside for work. So hopefully this will be really helpful for you in being able to do the same thing I did and walk through these. And like I said, yes, it does take some time to get through this, but if you are feeling behind on all of your tasks and you just need to get organized so that you can stop thinking about work, this is an amazing way to do it because it really helps you see what is actually possible and where those adjustments need to be made so that you can stop stressing about work. So let's go through a really quick little recap on what to do and the order to do it to help you stop feeling like you're falling behind. So, number one, you want to start by brainstorming your tasks and how many minutes each task will take. And then set that list aside once you're done. Number two, you want to create your charts. You're going to create your weekly sheet, which is going to be the day of the week for each of the days you work. And then under each of the days, you're going to do a column for a task and then column for minutes. And then on the second sheet is the annual sheet. You're going to do each month of the year. And then underneath the month, you're going to have three columns. You're going to do the date of the month, you're going to do the column for tasks, and then you're going to have a column for the total minutes each of those tasks will take. Once you do that, you're going to move to step three and you're going to use that brainstormed list from step one. And you're going to start plugging those tasks into the appropriate sheet. So if it's weekly, put it under whatever day of the week is the appropriate day, whether it is a single day, a couple of days, or each of the days, however it works, plug in the task and the time that it will take you for each of the days. And if it's not a weekly task, then you are going to determine which month or months it needs to go in. And then you're going to plug it into the appropriate month or months. And you're going to plug in the date, the task, and again, the total minutes that that task will take. Once you do this, you're going to move to step four. And now you're going to add up and calculate the week first. So you're going to add up the total minutes needed for each day of the week. So add up the total minutes in the tasks for each of the days of the week. And then you're going to take the total number, add all of the days up together to get a grand total number of the weekly minutes. And then you're going to divide it by 60. And this is going to tell you your total hours needed for your week. And this is your base week to accomplish just your weekly tasks you have on your plate. And then number five, step five, you're going to do the same thing for your months. So you're going to go month by month and you're just going to add up the total minutes for each month. So in January, you're going to take all of your January tasks, you're going to add up all your minutes, and then you're going to divide that number by 60, and that will tell you how many additional hours will be needed in January on top of your weekly tasks. And you're going to do the same thing for February, March, all the way down to December to add up the additional hours needed for each month. And then from here, you're going to want to go to step six, which is to review your week. So now that you have your week sheet, you're going to review your week and you're going to adjust the base week as needed. So if you do not have the hours appropriate to what you have scheduled for hours, you need to adjust those tasks, whether it is, shifting how much time you take on each task, whether it's shifting how often you accomplish each task. And at this point, if you need to take something and move it from weekly to maybe once a month, then you're going to remove it from the weekly sheet and you're going to drop it into, your monthly task list to put it in there as a recurring monthly task, or maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's annually. You're just going to make those adjustments as needed to make sure it accommodates what you have set up for your work hours. And then you'll go to step seven, where you can now use these as a template. So each week you are going to plan your week. You're going to review your weekly sheet and then review each of the months that you're in. So if you are in January, go to January and review the tasks listed in January and then add them to the appropriate day if that is the week that it needs to be accomplished. And at this point, you can recalculate those hours for the week to make sure that you can schedule yourself the appropriate amount of hours to make sure you can get all your work done. Or again, you can adjust and prioritize your tasks. If something needs to change, this is a good time to change it to make sure you can actually accomplish all of your tasks that week. And then you'll go to step 8, which is to then add your hours to your weekly planning session. This is making sure that those hours are actually plugged into a Google Calendar, to your paper planner, to a scheduler, however it is, to ensure that you can actually have that time blocked so that you can get the work done in the time frame. And then this will help you stop feeling behind so that you can actually get your work done, stay on top of things, be really productive, and free up your time so that you no longer have to worry about work. You can actually take the time off and go and live your life and have some fun. Did you love that episode or learn something useful? If so, would you do me a huge favor? My goal is to grow this podcast and help as many women as I can break free from the overwhelm so they can truly enjoy their life. The best way for me to do this is for you to leave a 5-star written review on your podcast app and to share this episode with a friend or in your Instagram stories. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.